Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to another podcast episode. I'm Emma Roy.
And I'm Tracy Poe.
And today we have with us the one and only Hannah Hughes. We are so excited to talk to you and just hear what you have to say. Hannah's going to be talking about quite a few things, and she's actually going to be a speaker at our upcoming conference. Sorry, those are my lovely fur babies. She's going to be a speaker at one of our upcoming women's business conference. So you're going to get a little sneak peek today from her, and then you have to buy the tickets and go register to hear the rest of what she has to say. So before we get into it, Valentine's Day just happened, and so I'm curious, I'm dying to know, what did everyone do for Valentine's Day?
Hannah, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Okay. So my answer is actually not super exciting, but we had a fun day. My husband and I are not super huge on like gift giving and holidays and stuff. I mean, I love all of that, but we actually have a 3-year-old son. And so yesterday we decided to do a family Valentine's and we went to Chuck E. Cheese.
Aww,
so it was cute. It was fun.
I love it. That is exciting.
Tracy, what'd you do?
Well, we normally do not go out to eat on Valentine's Day because crowded restaurants I don't deal well with that. And so, but we actually went out to eat. We ate at 5. We went out at 5. So we beat the crowds.
Grandma.
So anyhow.
Well,
we beat the crowds, but yeah, we went out and so that was sweet. And my husband actually works out of town part of the week. And so I went up and, got to hang out with him, and I sat at a desk in his office and he sat at his desk, and I worked and he worked. And so we spent the day together working, but we were together. So yeah. So anyhow, Emma.
Very fun.
I know that you and Andrew, go ahead, because I know you're both not feeling well.
Side eye to my dogs who won't shut up. I have tonsillitis. So he is fine. Like he was sick for like one day, and then he's always like the miracle recover kid. Like he gets over it in like 5 hours. I can't stand it. Anyways, so he went to work. So I had soup all day and I watched Dance Moms all day. And then he came home and we had soup. I'm gonna fight my dogs. And that is what I'm doing. Now I'm here. So it was a blast. So, Hannah, we're going to get right into chatting with you. I'm going to let Tracy kind of take over so I don't nasty hack into the microphone. If you see me dying in the corner, just know I muted it, so we're fine. So, Tracy, please take it away.
All right, I'm going to see if I can stand up to the great Emma Roy in handling this podcast. So, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on. And I just want to kind of hold up your book. This is one of the reasons we are putting Hannah on in February, the month of love. And she has a book, Love Is. And so we're going to talk about love today with Hannah. And, communicate great. That's who we are. And we are all about helping people with their communication skills, leveling up. And so we are going to talk about ways to communicate in a little bit. But first, I want to know the book. If you could give one sentence to kind of sum up your book, what would that be?
I would say that it is a practical approach to practicing love.
Okay. I like it. And we just came off of doing the series of the 5 love languages. And so this is perfect. And so those are ways that, and by the way, if you did not hear those, podcasts, go back, catch them. And, but the love language, those are ways that you can practically express love. And so I love that this is what your book is about. So, and I'm just kind of reading my questions since Emma's not helping me out here. Okay. So, because it's the month of love, we wanted to talk about your book. And so what brought you down the path of writing this book? And I know that it's your first book. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So kind of talk about what took you to the point of writing this book when you first wrote it.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is where it gets a little bit more drawn out. Like there's a lot more to it than a short little summary. I'm like, how do I even sum this up? So actually 10 years ago this year, I was in college, and it sounds so dramatic, but I was dealing with teenage heartbreak, and I was just absolutely devastated because I had been, in a relationship with this guy, and I thought he was thought he was the one. And it just ended up kind of falling apart. And I was left so confused and hurt and just feeling like I really thought this was it. So where did I go wrong? I mean, I really thought this was love, like everything I've been waiting for. And so I was sitting in my car one night and just like thinking about this. And I started praying and just asking God, what's the deal? Like, what am I missing here? Please just show me. Like, there's got to be more to life than this, like having my whole crisis moment. But I just realized that I had been looking for this love and waiting for other people to give me what I was hoping for, but I had not really been intentional about giving that kind of love. And I felt like it was almost this challenge from God to give it before I received it. And it wasn't what I was expecting, but I just decided, okay, you know what? Let's do this. I want to get real about figuring out what's the gap, because I'm a believer. And at the time, I was just noticing how there was this disconnect between what the Bible says, which is Christians are supposed to be known by their love. But somehow the church and Christians have become known for hypocrisy, judgment, hate even. And it's become a source of hurt for many people. And that just breaks my heart, because that is just not who God is. And so anyway, all of that to say, I was just on this path of trying to figure out how we can reconcile that. Because if our God is so good, and if God is love, then how can the church actually show that to the world? So it started with me going on a journey myself, diving into 1 Corinthians 13, which we've all heard, the love chapter, heard it a million times at weddings.
Right.
And so I really wanted to look at it in a new light. And so I practiced each of the attributes of love for 13 weeks and with a friend. And I asked her to come with me on this journey of okay, I want to figure this out. So for the first week, we practiced being patient. Wow. And it was so hard. But every single day we would talk about what we were learning. We would talk about how challenging it was, and how I realized immediately, right at the beginning, I've got this wrong my whole life, and it's not about being perfect, but I just realized there was so much that I had missed out on. And even not just in practicing love, but realizing who God is as love, as a father, as a friend, that we really don't get a chance to know or really connect with him that way until we dive into what love actually really looks like. And so I went through this whole journey, and at the end of it, I felt like God just said, okay, share it. And so I literally put my whole journey into a book form. So my book, Love Is, it's a guided devotional journal where you can walk through the same exact process that I went through 10 years ago. And I'm actually currently going through it again right now and doing a series on my podcast on it. And it is just life-changing. And I tell people all the time, the first time I went through it, and honestly, every time I revisit it, I hardly recognize myself at the end, because there's always something new. I mean, there's always ways we can grow in love, right?
Right.
But yeah, so that has been my journey and how it became a book. And 10 years later, I'm still learning.
I love it. And I have to say that I caught your first one on patience, and man, did that speak to me. Just a little, I don't know, confession here, but Emma knows. And, I kind of put it out on Facebook, and I've been talking about it a little bit here and there, but I am a workaholic. And I've said I recognize that is not a badge of honor. And, I pretty much, from the minute I wake up and I have my quiet time, I do spend time in the Word, but until practically going to bed, I'm working and, eating here and there. Right. Yeah. But I work all day. And so that, when you talked about To Hell with the Hustle, that book, and I've not read that, I was like, wow. Yeah. So God has really been working with me in this area. I had a friend some time ago say something about, God spoke to me in my quiet time, and he told me to tell you to pick up a hobby that you used to have. And so it's like he's telling me, you need to just And then when you talked about, do we really trust God? If we're killing ourselves to do things, where is the trust in that? And so I have to evaluate myself. Is it that I'm not trusting, or do I just have a problem? And so maybe it's a little of both. But yeah, that was really, really good. And so we want to put a link to your podcast in our description. So if people want to go listen to this series and then just check you out the rest of the time, normally you're on Fridays, right?
Yes, correct.
But this series you're dropping on Mondays. And so
yes.
I love that. So, and we drop ours on Mondays. So you have time for both.
Perfect. You can start the week with ours and your new series on Monday, and then you can end the week on Friday. That's perfect.
Exactly. So, and going back to what you said, that you realize that as Christians, we have a reputation of hypocrisy and judgment. Man, that is a topic for conversation sometimes in our family. We went out one time to lunch and Rob noticed, I didn't notice, but it was a church that we no longer go to. But a door greeter was there and was being very rude to the wait staff. And he just, I'm not going to use the word mortified for him. He would have to label it, but he was pretty taken back by that. And, another time a waitress said, man, we don't like working on Sundays because the church crowd comes in. Wow. And I'm sitting there as a Christian and I hear that. Oh my goodness. But Emma said something one time. I don't know if you're muted or not. Emma, what was that? There's something about the love.
Oh, there's no hate
love
like Christian love. Yeah, I heard that for the first time.
I never heard that.
A couple months ago, actually. And the sad part is, I was 100% like right. Or not right, but I'm so tired. It's the sick brain. No, but like I understood what they were saying. I'm sorry. But like when I heard that, I was like, that's right. That's what I meant to say. That's right. Like, not every Christian, no one's perfect, everyone's judgmental, but a lot of I don't want to put them in a category, but a lot of the, I guess, older Christians that I know honestly do kind of lead by example. There's no hate like Christian love. And I'm sure young one, like everyone's judgmental, no one's perfect. Everyone judges someone. But our old church, that's one of the main reasons that I chose to step away. No hate to them. I'm not bashing them. Like, I love some of the people there, but I did choose to step away and go find a new church because I just saw left and right that there is no hate like Christian love. And it was at a time where I needed God more than anything. And so it did turn me off from that. And I ended up actually not going to church for like a year or two. And then I met who's now my husband. And he this is such a rabbit. He was not necessarily, he was a believer at the time we met, but it says in the Bible, you're supposed to be with someone who's equally yoked as you. Well, he was a believer, but not really. But I was like a lifetime believer and we were equally yoked. And I look at that honestly as a sad thing. Wow. Like I should have been the one to lead by example. Right. As a Christian who grew up in the church, but instead he was the one who, like, just as a new believer, pulled me back into church and was like, I know you're hurt, I know your trauma, but like this is something that we need to turn towards together if we want to grow. And I was just like, that's husband material right there, because I'm supposed to be the one that's, popping out of the womb going to church. That should have been me, but it was you. So, but yes, there's no hate like Christian love. And it makes me sad when I see that.
But one of the things I love about this approach that you're taking, Hannah, is that it starts with us. And so I love that you take us on a journey to discover what love is and who love is. And so then we can therefore go out and change the world, right? Because we now have a greater understanding and are still growing, right?
Absolutely.
So because we're communicating great, can you just give us 3 tips that you could share with us for ways that we could communicate love to other people?
Absolutely. Well, I agree with you. I really do think that it has to start with us because, man, going back to what you said, Emma, there are so many people, Christians or otherwise who are just hurting. And one thing I've really learned in recent years, because I've experienced some trauma in my life, and now I'm obsessed with just studying the brain and the mind and trauma. And so that's a lot of what I talk about now, and just what I spend a lot of time studying. And what I've really found is that we've all heard the phrase hurt people, right? And so when there is a church full of hurting people who don't know what to do with their pain, we're just going to perpetuate that hurt. And so that's why so many people are leaving church who won't even step into church because they've had an encounter with a Christian. What you said about wait staff at restaurants dreading the church crowd coming, I mean, it's no wonder that so many people are turned off by religion and by Christians. And so going back to the tips, I really think the first thing we have to do is deal with our own junk. Because the cool thing that I've learned is that we can only give what we have, right? We can only replicate who we are. And so if hurt people, then healed people can heal people, and loved people can love people. And so I am just so passionate about helping people understand that if we believe God is the healer, then Christians should be the most healthy people spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally on the planet, and the most well-equipped people to help a hurting world. And so again, I really think it just has to start with us. So practical tips, I would say take inventory of your life. And really, I want to emphasize what we've already kind of said is that it's not about being perfect. You could study love for the rest of your life and never arrive. It's not about arriving. It's not about always doing it right. It's just about, I think, having a level of intention when it comes to interacting, the way we interact with other people in relationships and our family, you know, whatever it may be. Just really growing in self-awareness to see where, okay, is there a space in your life where you are still carrying some hurt or some disappointment or just some pain that's causing you to perpetuate that process and maybe hurt people, even if it's unintentionally, you know? I think a lot of the times we have good intentions, right? I'm like you, Tracy. I could work myself into the ground day in and day out. It's easy for me to do that. And what I've realized recently as I've been going through this study again is that even with good intentions, for me, that is something that's self-focused. So that'd be my second thing, is getting the focus off of yourself. And that really can be as simple as just scheduling in things where you are serving other people, caring for other people, meeting other people's needs. Because when we are focused on ourselves, even with good intentions, or if we are busy, if we are even busy with good things, we are not able to notice people and notice the needs around us and be aware enough to actually meet those needs. And it's so heartbreaking because, I mean, I have a 3-year-old son now and my husband, and I work from home primarily. And so there are days when I'm just in the zone and I'm doing what I feel are amazing things, right? Like I'm over here doing my podcast, I'm writing, like I'm doing it. But there have sadly been so many days, especially when my son was younger, that I would be so distracted by my good work that I didn't even interact with my husband and my son that day. Like they noticed that my work was the number one priority for me.
Wow.
And I'm so thankful that I'm learning that when my son is young, because kind of going back to what we talked about before, if Christians are supposed to be known by our love, gosh, one of the most convicting, humbling moments of my life was last year. We had a pastor at our church who was talking about how we're supposed to be known by our love. And actually, what does that look like? If somebody were to describe your life, describe you in one word, would it be that you love people well? And honestly, I don't know if that's what people would say. I mean, that's what I would love for people to say about me. But things that people usually say about me is she's a really hard worker. She's super ambitious. She's really driven. She is, you know, like she's really passionate. She's creative. Like those are all really good things. But I think just number one, growing in that awareness. Number two is just getting outside of yourself, because for me, these are all good things I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I believe purpose is pointless if we don't have people with us in the process, you know?
I like that.
And so invite people with you into the process, and just remember that even the best things you can do really won't amount to anything if you don't have people in your life that you're sharing that with, that you are have growing with you. And so I think that'd be my second one. And then thirdly, I think it's just really, once you are able to have that awareness and get beyond yourself and start noticing the needs of people in your life, make sure that you have enough margin to actually meet those needs. And again, I feel like this is something where, gosh, as women especially, we tend to overcomplicate this stuff. Maybe just me, but like truly, I chronically overcomplicate everything in my life. And so this is no exception, but I think a huge piece that's been missing is just simplifying. Showing love to people doesn't have to be grand gestures, like a Valentine's huge romantic thing every single time. It can be as easy as putting your phone down for 10 minutes and having a conversation with your spouse, or going on a walk uninterrupted with your kids, or taking a meal. Like if you have extra cookies, taking some to your neighbor. You know, it's just little tiny baby steps that help us intentionally build a life that involves and includes and values other people.
I love it. So my next question, and I think you kind of may have answered it in a way, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it just because it's on my list. So I do think that my two questions really kind of mesh together. So the first question was, what 3 tips to help us communicate love to others? And then my next question was going to be communicate love to ourselves. So I think you kind of talked about both, but do you have something to add in terms of tips to communicate love to ourselves?
That's such a great question. And oh man, when I think about the self-love, self-care conversation that's going on in the world right now, I think it unfortunately has this maybe unintentional connotation to be self-centered. And what I mean by that is self-care isn't just getting a mani-pedi and making sure that I have time to pamper myself. And that's great. Like if that's how you care for yourself, that's great. But going back to the self-awareness piece, this is something that recently clicked for me, is that if you aren't even aware of your own needs, then you really can't have the self-care piece, self-love piece. And you'll just be doing the things that you see other people doing for self-care that you think are going to help you. But I mean, if you don't recognize your needs and then you're just going to get a mani-pedi, you could come home and still be exhausted and not feel like your needs have been met, because it's going to look different for everybody. But I think loving yourself is number one, growing in self-awareness to recognize your own needs. And then number two, finding ways that you can fill those needs, because I think the most important thing about self-love, more than just like, oh, I just love myself, I'm number one, I'm living my best life, my best self, you know, it's like the whole point of that is to be filled so that we have an overflow to give to other people. And so figure out what you need in order to be a filled person so that you can show up to your work, show up in your relationships, and honestly be more effective in those things. And so for me, I've found that I tend to be very into my work. And so what my self-love, self-care routine has looked like is literally putting on my calendar that Monday nights, I will do no work. I will do nothing that has to do with self-improvement or anything. That is my night where I take a bubble bath and I read or I watch my shows, and I block that time out. And it's funny because now it's like this thing in our house where my boys know mom's unavailable. She is having her Monday night rest routine. And honestly, that has become so critical for me in my schedule, because if I don't have that intentional time where I know I'm going to rest, then it's very easy for me to fly into my week and feel like I've lost myself and I'm exhausted. And so that's just one way that I kind of proactively love and care for myself. And it really honestly protects me from burnout, protects me from getting into that hustle mode, and just so many things. So definitely just evaluate your life, evaluate your needs, and then figure out what works for you to be able to meet those needs, but really just keep your cup full so that you have something to give.
I often talk about, you know, when you're on the flight and they go through the safety training before, and they talk about pulling that oxygen, put it on yourself first before you can help others. Otherwise you're going to pass out. And then you're not
Yes.
going to, you've done yourself no good and everybody else no good. So
Exactly.
that is something that I like to share with people. Put your oxygen mask on yourself first so that you can then help other people. So
Right.
I love it. Okay. I think Emma is having a coughing.
No, like literally, I'm dying over here. I feel so bad. This is not how they normally go. Like every 5 seconds, I have been just like hacking in the corner, and I filled up my water right before we started, and I already drank it down because I was like,
Oh my gosh.
getting water, keep hydrating.
You're honestly such a trooper.
Thank you. You know what?
That's a cough again.
If you go back and if you go back to listen to some of our podcasts, she kind of goes through this periodically, and there have been times where, and it was funny because it's before we had this set up and we were having to share a mic, and so I would always like try to hold my breath. So I wasn't getting her germs.
I have
So
like
anyhow,
the weakest immune system, but the thing is like I take vitamins, I eat my greens and fruits, I do green smoothies, and like I work out, and my immune system just laughs at me daily. Like it's like, you're doing all this to try, stupid, and then it fails me. I have like tonsillitis plus a sinus infection, so it's a blast. I'm having so much fun.
It. I love that you're kind of also like back in the dark.
No, people are gonna watch us and be like, "What is that gremlin in the corner?" Like, it's me, guys. No, you're right. I am in the dark because I'm off cornered to where, like, if I need to like just lean over and cough everything, I can.
I can see the light kind of at the corner. Okay, Hannah, do you have anything else that you would like to share with us? Do you have, one of the things I was going to ask is, do you have any offers for our listeners?
Well, yeah, I would say definitely come and hang out on the podcast. My podcast is called The By Words Show.
Mm-hmm.
And like we kind of talked about, we are going through my book in real time right now and studying what it actually looks like to love yourself, love your neighbor, love the Lord, all these things. So I would definitely say come join us for that. And then I am so excited to be coming to speak at your conference.
Yay!
I cannot wait. That's going to be amazing. I would love to meet you guys there. And then besides that, I do one-on-one coaching sessions with women who are in a season of maybe feeling stuck and not sure what the best next step is. And so I would love to, I'll provide you guys with a discount code for anybody who might be interested in booking a session with me.
Nice. That is very generous. And I just want to, kind of push Love Is. And I started reading Waking Up. I've got this book too. This is Hannah's other book, and I would love to have you back on sometime. Just the little bit that I've been reading so far, you are a beautiful writer. Oh my goodness. It is just, wow. So, I would love to have you back on sometime and we can talk about waking up and ways to communicate through that.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll also put a link to, your books. And so if anybody wants your books, but yes, please come on out to the Oh Yes I Can Women's Business Conference and hear Hannah speaking. We've got, another great speaker, Diane Cunningham Ellis, who's going to be there as well. So it's going to be a great time, breakout sessions, and we'll put the link for that. And it's early bird pricing right now. Emma, anything else that I'm not mentioning that you normally do with our takeout? Nope, shaking her head no. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And Hannah, we just have fallen in love with you since we were able to meet you. So just thank you for coming into our lives and interacting with us and being willing to, do what, come on our podcast and be a speaker. And, so just thank you so, so much for your heart for other people and for putting it in written form for people to read. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be a part of what you guys are doing, and I'm just so excited to continue doing all of this with you guys.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you. Emma, do you have anything? No. Okay. All right. We'll see you all next Monday.